Hello everyone, welcome to this news live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev says 23 more villages have been liberated from the Armenian occupation. The Azeri army has liberated 5 city centers, 3 towns and 240 villages since the fighting over Nagorno-Karabakh region started in September. Meanwhile, Armenia says 44 of its soldiers have been killed, pushing its military death toll to over 1,200. In Afghanistan, at least 4 people have been killed and 40 others wounded after a suicide car bomber targeted a police base in Kandahar. Security officials say civilians and soldiers were among those wounded. No group has claimed the responsibility for the attack. Four US soldiers have reportedly been killed in a roadside mine explosion in northeastern Syria. Syria's state news agency said the slain soldiers were taken to US base in the Shadadi area. It said following the explosion, the US forces cordoned off the area. Mexico's COVID-19 death toll has crossed 95,000 with infections tally nearing 1 million. In the US, the caseload is approaching 10 million, while its fatality count has topped 237,000. Pakistan has reported over 1,600 new cases and 9 fatalities overnight, with a death toll reaching 6,977. Globally, the virus has claimed over 1.25 million lives and infected more than 50 million people. And in football, Valencia thrashed Real Madrid 4-1 in a Spanish La Liga fixture. Carlos Soler's hat-trick over penalties secured Valencia's win in the extraordinary match. The latest win moves Valencia to the 9th place in the league with 11 points. Those are the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Azerbaijan says the Armenian troops have again targeted civilians with various small arms and mortars. The defense ministry says the Azeri military's retaliation dealt heavy damage to Armenian troops in the Khojavand region. It says the operations in the Aghdare, Aghdam, Khojavand and Gubadli fronts continue with varying intensity. The ministry says the enemy was forced to retreat in some areas of the front. The latest fighting erupted a day after Azerbaijan said it liberated the city of Shusha from Armenia after 28 years. The city is considered a strategic fortress and a key to control over the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Over 1,200 people have been killed in nearly 6 weeks of fighting in and around Nagorno-Karabakh. In Afghanistan, at least 4 people have been killed and 40 others wounded after a suicide car bomber targeted a police base in Kandahar. Security officials say civilians and soldiers were among those wounded. No group has claimed the responsibility for the attack. Separately, 2 civilians were wounded in a roadside mine blast in Kabul. Violence has soared in Afghanistan in recent months, even as the Taliban and the government negotiators hold peace talks in Doha. Pakistan's Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa has met Chinese envoy Nong Rong at General Headquarters in Rawalpindi. The military's media wing said the two discussed bilateral relations, including regional security. It said the two noted exceptional ties between the two countries and pledged to further improve relations. The Chinese ambassador lauded Pakistan's contributions for conflict prevention in the region. In northeastern Syria, 4 US soldiers have reportedly been killed in a roadside IED blast in Hasakeh province. Syrian state media says the slain troops were taken to a US base in the Shadadi area. It said American forces cordoned off the area after the explosion tore through a U.S. military vehicle. It said U.S. forces in Syria and their Kurdish allies control much of the area, including major oil fields. The U.S. has around 100 troops and 6 Bradley fighting vehicles deployed in the region. It ramped up its military presence back in September after skirmishes with the Russian army. Earlier, 3 civilians were killed and 9 others injured in a landmine explosion in Hama province. In Russia, 3 people have been killed in a shooting at the Baltimore military airfield near the southwestern city of Voronezh. Russia's state media said a soldier opened fire on his colleagues with a handgun which he took from an officer. It said the soldier has now barricaded himself on the territory of a military unit. The motive behind the shooting remains unclear. The Baltimore military airfield is part of the Air Force Academy. In the United States, Joe Biden's advisors have begun discussing who will fill key posts after he pledged the most diverse cabinet in history. In his first speech as the president-elect, Biden vowed to unify the country. Biden and his running mate, Kamala Harris, have launched a transition website, Build Back Better, and a Twitter feed. They have listed the tackling COVID-19, racial inequality, and climate change as a top priority. His defeated rival Donald Trump continues to cast doubt on election results. His campaign has mounted legal challenges to the results in several states without offering any evidence. China and Russia have held their congratulatory messages to the U.S. President-elect Joe Biden. The 2 countries have said they would wait for the final vote count to end, declaring results officially. China's foreign ministry said Beijing understands that U.S. election results will be determined following laws. At a media briefing, spokesman Wang Wenbin said although Biden declared victory, China would follow custom in responding to the result. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has also remained silent as Kremlin waits for the official results. The Kremlin said it has also noted President Trump's announcement of legal challenges related to the vote. Earlier, Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador had also held off congratulating U.S. President-elect Joe Biden. Irish Foreign Minister Simon Coveney says Joe Biden's election victory may impact the Brexit trade talks. Coveney said Biden's remarks in support of Ireland can weigh on crucial ongoing negotiations. Coveney called Biden a real friend of Ireland. He said Biden, during his campaign, made a very clear statement on the Irish border issue. He said President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Boris Johnson had a close relation and there was much talk about a trade deal. Coveney asserted that after Biden's election, Number 10 will need to pause to ensure Irish issues are prioritized. Earlier, London said it has assured the next US government that it will not put at risk the 1998 peace agreement for Northern Ireland. Iran says Donald Trump's ouster from the White House is an opportunity to rebuild relations in the Middle East. In a tweet, Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said relying on outsiders for regional security was not wise. The Iranian top diplomat said geographic realities can't be altered with the removal of officials. Zarif extended an olive branch to his neighbors and called for cooperation in achieving common interests. Earlier, Tehran said the Trump administration's harmful foreign policy can serve as a lesson to new White House leaders. Iran's presidential head Mahmoud Awaizi said the next US government should rethink its wrong policies. At least 11 people have been killed and 8 others wounded in an attack on a military post in Iraq's capital city of Baghdad. Police say the attackers used grenades and automatic weapons. They said the assailants in 4 vehicles attacked the post in the city's Al-Radwaniyah district. Police added security forces have started a search operation in the area. Earlier, Iraq's Joint Operation Command and the US-led coalition launched a major offensive against ISIS in Salahuddin province. In a joint statement, the JOC said security forces seized militants' advanced weaponry. In Belarus, thousands of protesters have taken to the streets in Belarusian capital city of Minsk. Over 300 people have been reportedly detained in the capital. The protesters are calling for President Alexander Lukashenko to resign after 26 years in power. The initial gathering in the center of the capital was dispersed by the security services, but protesters later split out across the city, with scattered groups staging small demonstrations. The country has been rocked by mass protests since a controversial presidential election in August. Major powers, including the US and the EU, have imposed sanctions against a string of Belarusian officials. Austrian police have made 30 arrests in more than 60 days as part of an anti-terror operation, but the prosecutors ruled out any links of the arrests to the Vienna attack, which left 4 people dead. In a statement, the prosecutor's office said the latest raids were made in the country's 4 provinces. It added the operation targeted people suspected of links with the Palestinian Hamas group and the Muslim Brotherhood. The office further said the authorities are investigating over 70 people on suspicion of belonging to the blacklisted groups. Austria has formally remanded 10 suspects in custody in connection with the Vienna attack so far. Thousands of people rallied in the Georgian capital, Tbilisi, against the results of the parliamentary elections. Dozens were injured as police used water cannon to disperse the demonstrators. The protesters held a peaceful rally at the Shota Rustaveli Avenue near the parliament during the day. The police said it used cannon after demonstrators tried to storm the Central Election Commission building. The Interior Ministry said the police used force because protesters did not obey the instructions. Opposition leaders called on supporters to leave the scene, announcing to hold more protests today. In the October 31st general election, the ruling Georgian Dream Party emerged as a winner, prompting the opposition to protest. In Argentina, thousands of people protest in the capital city of Buenos Aires against the government and President Alberto Fernandez. They were protesting the ailing economy, pandemic lockdown measures, and proposed judicial reforms. Demonstrations brought the traffic to a standstill in the South American country's capital. Argentina's economy contracted by a record 19.1% in the second quarter, while analysts predict a 12% plunge in 2020. In Bolivia, Luis Arce has been sworn in as the country's president. The ceremony inaugurating Arce was held in the city of La Paz with several leaders in attendance. Heads of the state from Argentina, Paraguay, Colombia, Spain, and senior officials from Chile, Iran, and Venezuela were present at the ceremony. The newly sworn-in president has pledged to defeat the pandemic and heal the political rift in the country. Arce said the former president, Evo Morales, will play no role in his government. Sikh community all around the world is celebrating the first anniversary of the inauguration of the Kartarpur corridor in Pakistan. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan inaugurated the corridor to facilitate millions of Sikh pilgrims from India and around the world. More in this report.
Darbar Sahib Kartarpur is located in Narwal district of Pakistan, which is the last resting place of Sikh spiritual leader Guru Nanak Dev. The opening of the corridor last year took place on the eve of 550th birth anniversary of Guru Nanak. The Kartarpur corridor has been widely recognized as a new symbol of peace by the world community. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres acknowledged the opening of the corridor as a practical proof of Pakistan's desire for peace and interfaith harmony. To mark the anniversary, Pakistan's Sikh Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee and Evacuee Trust Property Board are organizing a function at Kartarpur. On the other hand, home to the majority of Sikh, India has been attempting to malign the step taken in good faith by Pakistan. The corridor was closed amid the pandemic, but Pakistan announced to reopen it on the 3rd of October, while the Indian government has remained undecided. There has been outrage among the Sikh community in India over the issue. They said New Delhi has reopened all places of worship, then why not open the corridor?
Pakistanis all over the world are celebrating the 143rd birth anniversary of the country's national poet, Allama Muhammad Iqbal.
Across the country, various social and literary organizations are organizing seminars and exhibitions to honor Allama Iqbal's birthday. In his message, Pakistan's President Arif Alvi underscored the need for following Iqbal's teachings on Islam and his philosophy of self-realization. Prime Minister Imran Khan said Iqbal is a great mystic with a pure spirit and his thoughts continue to inspire and guide us. Born on the 9th of November 1877 in the northeastern Sialkot city, Iqbal conceived the conception of a separate homeland for Muslims. In his famous address in Allahabad, India, Iqbal said Muslims are a distinct nation and deserve independence. Iqbal produced literary works in Persian and Urdu languages. Of his 12,000 verses of poetry, about 7,000 verses are in Persian. His tremendous work in both languages earned him the title of the Poet of the East by literary critics.
It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned.